Hi, everyone, and welcome. In this panel, we're going to, thank you, Misha. We're going to sit down with the Beat Games team and learn a little bit more about your origins, what inspired your design all the way out to launch, and what it was like to go across different platforms since you launched, especially with Oculus Quest most recently. To tell you a little bit more, and as way of introduction for each one of our panelists today, Trevor Dash is joining us from the Oculus team. He's with the developer relations team, and he has worked really closely with Beat Games since their launch and supported them throughout all of that, so kind of been partnering together. And on my end, I get to work with developers around the world, including the Beat Games team, and it has been a delight for me the last year and a half. And then on the Beat Games side, we have got Jan Ilowski, original creator of Beat Saber and lead on development and design, and Vladimir Rinchar, co-creator of Beat Saber and CEO of Beat Games. So for us today, there are some key takeaways that we hope you can take with you. First off, how important it is to keep in mind design elements, and as you build for VR, keeping in mind what it is about what you're building that will make it unique to that platform. Second, what it's like to have the mindset of optimization when it comes to building for Quest. And third, how important it is for you to keep in mind engagement over time for your title, and how the team has done it through updates since their launch.
So, when did you guys first try VR?
We're all curious about this.
Yeah, I think it was at the same time as we are talking with Jan. It was in 90s, probably 97, when we were in high school to some expo, or more like a convention, I don't really remember, and we tried the VFX1 for the first time with the puck playing Doom there. So I still have the memory that it was completely different Doom I played before.
Yeah, I was there with Vladimir because we know each other since we are 9 or something. So.
So you guys have been making games together since then?
Yeah.
Awesome. And so that was in the 90s, Vlado. What was it? When did VR come back into your lives?
It's a confession. I didn't have the DK1 first, but my friend bought it to me. So
yeah.
It was the DK1 days. We play something with the controllers or with the keyboard. Clearly don't remember there were no touch controls yet. And I had my roller coaster moment there, so it was funny, and I was finally thinking that maybe there could be a very near future that we can do some software or games for it, even though back in that days we were still doing mobile games.
Yeah, I played some game with chickens on DK2.
Chickens, all right.
Chickens, yeah. There were some chickens. That's all I remember. I remember that the resolution was not there.
Sure.
And it was like, okay, but I remember that I didn't want to make any games for it at the time.
So we're very fortunate to have you here today.
Yeah.
Through chickens, all right?
With chickens.
Yeah. So I think we can all agree VR it's new territory, uncharted. There's a lot of developers out there that spend time thinking about what it is that they should bring or what it is that they should create when it comes to VR. What first inspired the idea for Beat Saber?
Yeah, so I bought my first headset and I tried a few rhythm games, and I was not disappointed completely, but I thought, okay, we can find some things how to improve this.
Yeah.
Like especially most of the games generated the levels from the music automatically. And because I'm a musician, I really appreciate if the level is somehow connected to the music, or if it's connected as much as possible to the music. So this was first thing, like let's create something where we make it by hand. And the second thing was let's try to figure out what's the best interaction, how to play some notes in VR. Yeah. And I was looking for some interaction which is clearly defined in the time. And cutting is clearly defined. You know where you are, when are you cutting through something. It's one point at the time, and you know you did it. It's not like stopping something or doing some movement which is quite vague in the time. This was really like, okay, this is the cut and this is the time when you did it. So I took these two things, or the first thing, I just made the prototype where we are cutting something, and it took me like several hours, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours. I created the prototype where the cubes were running at you and you were cutting them through, and it felt pretty nice, you know, like just cutting cubes felt really nice. So I thought, okay, maybe this has some potential and maybe we should start working on that. Yeah.
Okay.
How did you take that idea to the next level?
Yeah, so I was kind of lazy back then, and so I asked Vladimir if he can help me with some stuff. So
yeah, at the beginning, we clearly wanted to have some sort of tool where we can easily create the levels there, but we didn't want to spend first 3 months creating level editor. So Jan suggested, let's do the MIDI editor thing. You will draw the levels inside the MIDI editor, and the first thing I was programming was MIDI importer. So a MIDI importer. So imagine like every line defined like the spatial position of the note, and it was the velocity which defined in the end the direction of the cutting. And funny thing is, back in those days, I didn't have a VR headset yet. I didn't have my Rift. So I programmed everything and prototyped everything in the editor. It was so hard to do any like testing. So at one point I created very temporally routine to simulate the cut of the swords, which was I controlling with my mouse. But fortunately, then I got my Rift. The touch controllers arrived, so finally I was also able to do the.
Yeah, that might have been more than 1 year after we started, right?
Oh.
When you get the first Rift.
No, the Rift I got it in December. We started in September.
Okay.
And the touch controllers around the same time, if I remember correctly. So
That's good.
But yeah,
So since then, no more mouse. You don't have to use the mouse anymore. Okay, so it sounds like you started with a great idea based off of what you knew, music, and wanting to do something around music, and then partnering with Vlado to start bringing it to life. When it comes to Beat Saber, what pieces or core elements do you feel were most important when it came to deciding what that initial release version of Beat Saber would be?
Yeah. So the basic idea was, let's try to move people like they're almost dancing. This was the initial thing, and let's build all the interaction based on that. So we tried a lot of stuff. Like we didn't have any arrows on the cubes because we thought it's too limiting. So people will feel like they are too much pushed into one direction. And we tried it. It was kind of cool. But then we realized that arrows can bring more variety to what the moves are, and also the scoring system. Actually, the one thing was, let's make them dance.
Yes.
Yeah. And the second thing was, let's make them dance so they don't look stupid. You know.
All right, yeah.
Because you don't want to have pro players looking like idiots playing the game. You really want them to look good or some way.
Yeah.
So at one point we have a scoring system which just measured the tip point of the saber and what was the distance.
What was the distance?
Yeah. So people with long hands were just like swimming, doing really big arcs and all that stuff. It didn't look good. So we changed it to what we have right now. And I think this is kind of important, like let's making them look good.
And also, do you remember in the first initial version, the code is still there. We had a routine which checks if you cut the cube correctly. So it checks the color, of course, it checks the direction, but it also checked how the blade is oriented, because in our initial idea, we had a bladed weapon because it looked great. But in the end, when we tried with the physical controllers, they look like something to hold, but then they are not so, I would say, symmetrical as a real saber handles. So it's difficult for you to adjust the blade angle. So we strip it away after trying.
Yeah.
But the code is still there, so maybe.
It's really interesting. So you thought about how players would feel, how players would look, and how they would look to others. So for content creators today, make them feel like superheroes and also have them look awesome.
And those like key elements, they stay with us since the beginning. We always look at them as something which everything else should be adjusted to. So if you don't look enough, don't look good enough with this new feature, we would rather throw away that feature and stay with the original idea.
I appreciate that. I do like feeling like a superhero.
So I have to ask, the name Beat Saber now is so iconic. Nobody can picture anything else, any other name for this game. But that wasn't maybe your original idea, or tell us about the naming of the game.
Yeah, we are coming from mobile world, so we had some experience with names. And by the time we figure out that naming a game is a good thing to have 2 words, because using one is very bad for search engine optimizations and stuff. And also, if the name is very descriptive, you just know what you are playing, even before you are downloading it. So we had some idea, let's use a beat.
Let's use beat.
Beat, yeah, we wanted to use the word beat.
So beat was always in there.
Beat was always there. And then we were looking for more stuff, like...
I had this idea, because usually how we work together, we came up with the options, and then we argue a bit. Maybe there is a big argument. So at one day, I went to Jan's home and presented my idea, which was beat slash or slash beat. I can't really remember. It was a long time ago. And Jan's idea was, of course, Beat Saber. And who was the decisive factor?
Yeah, then my wife came there and she said, Beat Saber is better.
So I was sad a little bit, but now I can't imagine any other word to describe our game. So I'm kind of happy. Though after today's keynote and announcement of hand tracking, can you imagine playing Beat Saber with your hands? So you are slashing, so slash beat will maybe come back.
It could come back. It could come back, yeah.
The funny thing I remember to this topic, do you remember the original code name for our project?
VR Audio.
VR Audio.
Yeah, that was our
Very
name
straightforward.
of the project, yeah.
So Beat Saber gets a lot of acclaim from developers and consumers because everyone says it's easy to get into and it doesn't need too much of an introduction. Usually when I demo to folks, I can just get them in a song, not necessarily in the tutorial, and they find themselves very intuitively kind of following to a certain degree. What elements in the design do you feel helped take Beat Saber to that point?
Yeah, it's pretty complicated. Yeah.
I think less is sometimes more.
Yeah.
So I tried to remember which feature we removed, but there were a couple.
Yeah,
and
but I think the most important thing is that, as you said many times, people know how to cut things through.
Yeah. So imagine humanity, 1,000 years. We played with a bladed weapon for millennia. We know how to cut stuff. So these mechanics and the game and the VR, everybody gets it.
Yeah.
Subconsciously, very, very naturally. So
Yeah,
it came together very early
Yes.
since that prototype as an approachable and understandable concept.
Yeah, but then we had to figure out small details, like arrows on the cubes, like how they should look like, and what's the best shape of the arrow, what's the best position of the arrow. First, when we tried it, we have simple arrows just pointing somewhere. They were in the middle of the cube. And it didn't work out because many people didn't know if they should cut into the direction of the arrow, or the arrow is pointing at the edge you should be cutting through. So we iterated a lot on this, and we went to some conventions. We actually, before we released the game, we saw maybe 1,000 people playing the game. So slowly, just looking at them, tweaking, moving the arrow at the one edge, second edge. At one point, we didn't even have arrow. I think we have just one line.
Just the edge or something.
Edge was glowing or something like that. Yeah, and this was the best thing we found out.
So it was really helpful to get that feedback throughout.
We usually showcase the game we called it our Prague GDC. It's called GDS, Game Developer Session. So there are many developers who are obviously gamers as well, but they tend to bring their friends who never ever tried VR before. And we saw the patterns, people who played the VR game for the first time having trouble, for example.
Yeah.
The first thing just to adapt to the music, to the beat, then to understand the arrows, then maybe also the obstacles. Problems with the obstacles, you would say, is there any problem with the obstacles? Yes, it is.
Yeah, at one point we have those walls coming at you, and we have those which are flying on the top, and people should crouch. Yeah, and I was tweaking the shader for that, making it look a little bit subtle and so on. And suddenly I think on those Gamescom 2016 or 17, people stopped crouching and they let just the wall flew from.
They just took it in, yeah.
Yeah, we kept screaming crouch,
Crouch, crouch, crouch.
all the time.
You're meant to crouch.
Yeah, so just the subtle change in the shader or the look of the walls completely ruined the intuitiveness of the game. So I would say let's iterate a lot and we do. I think 80% of what we did in the game was just deleted. Like even if we look on the code, it's the same thing, which is kind of bad because we are refactoring a lot. But yes, let's iterate. Don't be afraid to delete anything. We are doing it a lot, deleting stuff.
So you experimented a lot, but you were also willing to take things back to just keep pursuing that intuitiveness and something that people could understand right away.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
So Beat Saber has had massive success with its videos online. What do you think has led to the virality that it has?
The first viral video was just a simple clip of first level we had, not the first level, but first level with music of Jaroslav Beck, who is making the music for the game. It was 100 bills. And I just woke up in the morning and I thought, okay, we should market the game a little bit so people know we are working on something. So I just took that level, recorded a clip from that, 30 seconds, nothing special. And I put it on the Twitter, and I had like 2,000 followers on Twitter back then. It was nothing big. And suddenly, retweets started to grow, and by the evening, I had like 100,000 views on that.
Yeah.
Which was crazy.
Almost 20,000
likes. Yeah. So I was really like, what's happening?
So it was a good morning.
Yeah, it was a good morning. I thought, okay, finally we will make a good game.
Yeah, I remember watching it for the very first time, I never forget, and finding myself following what was happening on the screen, which I think a few people tweeted at you back then as well.
Yeah.
It's we received many emails of people who watched that trailer thing, and we also watch other people watching the trailer. It wasn't a trailer, it was just a screenshot of the Saturday in form of the video, and the people were already trying to mimic the movements just by seeing something very, very simple, and they probably didn't even know what kind of game it is, because they saw it in a social network, not any context with the VR, not any context with the rhythm game label.
But I think it was really important that the video showed clearly how the gameplay works, because it started with just left cube, cut it through the right cube, and it was really simple. Then it growed up, and there was this massive drop, and the craziness happened. So it was very powerful. I think that was important. If we just show the like complicated level or something like that straight ahead, it won't work. This was really like the grow and the drop and the madness that was very important. Yeah.
So there was a lot of thought put into that trailer and what that first impression would be for all those folks.
Yeah. And then we got connected with Live guys, and they asked us if can we make a mixed reality video for you, and we didn't want to in the beginning, like because we wanted to make it ourselves, all the stuff.
Yeah.
But we had friends there, so we said, okay, let's do some video. And they made the first viral video with Swan. She's sitting there. And it went completely viral, like tens of millions or hundreds of millions views on Facebook, Instagram, and everywhere, basically. And at the time, we knew that, okay, we might sell few copies.
Yeah, you were on the right path.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you guys came out May 1st, never forget, And if we fast forward from that viral video, every design decision that you made along the way, fast forward a bit, and then we were looking at Quest together. I remember demoing for you guys and you trying it for the first time. And that was a process, right? It was a series of steps that you took and work that you put in. And we'd love to talk to you a little bit about it.
Obviously, we knew that the game which is running on that big GPU with the, I don't know how many cores is there, 200 watts, and compared to standalone device running on the mobile chipset, maybe there could be some challenges. But like historically, me and Jan kind of know what do we do, because previously we did mobile games, so we were facing the same challenges, how to optimize graphics for the mobile chipset. But with the help of you guys, very, very appreciated, we came into a stable version of the Quest.
Got started, yeah.
Kind of earlier than we maybe initially thought.
Yeah. And in terms of changes, were there things you had to change to bring it over to Quest?
Yes. So the biggest there are two things in Beat Saber for PC. There's a lot of post-processing, or not a lot of. There's a bloom effect.
Yeah.
And you can't do any post-processing on Quest or mobile devices. You can do it maybe on some iOS devices, but it really depends on the resolution and all those stuff. So first we had to get rid of the bloom. And you know, our game is based on bloom. There's everything is glowing, so you can't just turn it off and think like, okay, this is the same game. No, it will be completely different. So I had to manually fake all the bloom on all those laser slides everywhere. It wasn't a complicated task. It just took a lot of time. Just go through everything, make it look good. So all the lights were replaced by that. And the second thing is on a mobile GPU, which is styled renderer, you can't resolve big textures, which means that it takes a lot of time. But we have quite unique lighting system, which uses almost eight passes, and the result is applied on all the geometry in forward rendering as a fog. So we think, in the beginning we thought this won't be possible to use on Quest. So I think Trevor suggested that we should use like something really fake.
Do like a single pass, you just render like a blurred image.
Yeah, single pass something, but it didn't look so good, right? Yeah.
It was a little rough.
Yeah, it was a little bit different. Yeah. But then we tried it on Quest, and actually the performance, it wasn't so bad. It actually ran pretty nice because we did it in a very low resolution. All those lights are computed in 256 by 256 pixels. Yeah. So we can use 8 passes of that.
So basically the resolve cost it's relative to the number of bytes you're pushing through.
Yeah.
So with small textures, it's actually way cheaper.
Yes, so it was way cheaper and it worked. So the lighting on the Quest is actually the same we have on PC.
Same as PC.
And we have like hundreds of lights on Quest with this technique.
And it's a super great that all those optimizations which went into the Quest build, we took it back to the main game, to the PC game. So even players who have like sub-optimal GPUs can now enjoy the game with all those optimization ins. So the player base who can enjoy the game in full 90 frames per second on the PC is growing just because of the Quest build, right?
Yeah.
So
another thing we had to change was those walls or obstacles because of the same reason, the tiled renderer, and we couldn't resolve the whole screen and just distort it.
Yeah.
So we had to completely remove that. But we are still trying to figure out if that would be possible to have it there. And the last thing is the fog, not fog, the smoke.
The smoke.
There is some particle smoke. And maybe just the smoke would be okay, but we are using soft particles because if the cubes are coming at you through the particles, you don't want to just them pop up or do something like that. You want smooth transition. So on PC, we are rendering depth, and then we apply this soft particles thing, which is not possible on Quest, unfortunately.
You can't sample the depth, unfortunately.
Yes.
Without paying a huge cost.
Yeah, we are saving a lot of passes on the Quest just by not having soft particles, not having the not the fog, the dust there. But from time to time, there are like weekend hobby projects that, for example, Jan try to put it there. Is there
Any headroom, yeah.
any headroom yet? Not yet, but maybe
Tomorrow.
Someday we'll figure out the
Yeah.
trick.
Yeah.
So what took the most time to what effect took the most time, I think, to get right on Quest?
I think those lights, because just they were too, like we have to change everything. But there were some really crazy tricks for shaders, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Trevor helped us with one shader that Unity required us to use model view metrics in the shader. In one shader, we didn't have it because we just needed to transform to clip space. And if we didn't use it, the shader didn't work at all. So now we have something like model view metrics multiplied by 0.000001. So it's doing nothing, but it's there, and it works. Thank you, Trevor.
Yeah, of course.
Well, I mean, I think we can all agree that it looks pretty fantastic on Quest. So definitely a lot of work and a lot of details and looking at each and every. I know you always talk about finding ways to try to continue to optimize to deliver a great experience. And then, Vlado, you mentioned being able to take that to other players as well.
Yeah, I think in VR it's especially important to keep the immersion.
Yes.
So there's nothing which distracts you. Even for on PC, we have the bloom effect. Initially, we used the built-in Unity bloom effect just to try it out.
And there is no way.
Yeah, and
There is no way.
and it looks great on PC on flat screen, but in VR you can see a lot of shimmering and all those small aliasing. Yeah, so we have a very custom bloom effect on PC too, based on Kawase blur, which is really much more realistic than the faked bloom, which uses pyramid thing, which helps to like really immerse the player into the game, so there's no flickering at all.
Cool.
So we've talked a little bit about kind of the time that you spent iterating from first coming up with the idea for Beat Saber and then making decisions every step along the way, and whether you had to cut back and take things out or put things back in. How many revisions do you guys usually go through before you decide that the look is right enough that you can ship it to the audience?
It's an endless process, that.
Yeah,
Endless.
process.
All right.
It's endless.
Yeah.
Even now, when the game is out for a year, more than a year, I'm still changing things because I don't like them. I'm like, oh, and people don't like my changes too.
I know they're very vocal.
Yeah,
Yes.
if I change
Very passionate community.
Yeah, if I change anything, usually it's for bad.
You will ruin it. The lights are now doesn't work at all.
Yeah,
But-
yeah, I'm sorry about that. I will keep doing it.
I remember you were telling us the other day about the centimeters moving.
Yeah. At one point, we wanted to tweak something on the sabers, so we moved it about half inch or 1 centimeter to the one direction, and suddenly, when we updated the game, people start screaming like, "You ruined the experience! Now the sabers are completely off. Like we can't play the game." So even small changes like this can really affect the thing.
But to that point, I think it was all about us putting the change into words in a release note. So people saw we moved the saber handles. And subconsciously they thought it was like a big movement, and when they played the game they got a bad score, so they wanted to say, I'm not the bad guy, the software is bad, the game is bad. And you changed the saber handles, so obviously
It was you guys, yeah.
it was them.
Yeah.
Well, actually, this was confirmed when we wanted to change the scoring system a little bit, and we released the new update. We wrote that we improved the scoring system. Everyone was super happy that it works much better. And the next day I figured out the code is commented out and we didn't release it. So yeah, sometimes you just write the new release.
So
note
you
and-
said it's better, and they're like, yeah, it's better.
yeah, it's
much better.
Much better.
The placebo effect is real.
Yeah.
I think that speaks to, the team over at Beat Games you guys have worked really hard to connect with the community over time and listen to the community really closely. And I think we can all agree that it's paid off players appreciate being able to feel like they have a connection to you and that you're there even through the placebo effect.
Yeah, we are really trying to work with the community somehow. It's not always easy because there are some difficulties, but we are really listening. You know, we are not trying to hurt the community or don't bring the things everyone wants. We want to bring everything to the game. It just takes time, and sometimes it's not so easy. You know.
Yes.
Sometimes there's a legal department,
Yes.
which everything needs to go through, which is kind of scary for us. You know, when we started as two guys, we just wanted to make games, and suddenly we started to do the music stuff, and that's really complicated. It's not so easy.
Yeah, I feel like each of those steps, even though it hasn't been easy, really has factored into success for you. And speaking of success, I am curious, what was it like for you to hit 1 million units sold in VR? How did each of you feel when you hit that milestone?
It's interesting. I wasn't counting. It was I think Yaroslav who was in the background counting the numbers. So when we did the announcement for the sake of telling everybody that it is possible to do dead numbers in a VR, which is like niche inside the niche compared to like
platforms
mobile,
that have been around
but
longer. Yeah,
the numbers is there, and obviously we were really happy to be able to tell it to everybody. But at that moment, and probably even now, because of so much going on, it still didn't get to my head.
it didn't sink in.
Yeah. Probably we'll need to hit another milestone to push it even more. So yeah, I'm really happy that what we achieved, because initially me and Jan were like making a game for ourselves, and we're thinking maybe we can do like
10,000.
10,000?
I think we said that 10,000 would be good if we do. Yeah.
Well, what was it like for you, Jan?
I'm still not getting it, you know.
Okay, still not sinking in, but
Yeah, and nothing has changed for us. We are still working like night and day all the time. So
Yes.
I'm trying to plan my vacation for 2022.
oh no.
Without giving away any secrets, are there any new features that you're thinking about bringing into Beat Saber, or ideas you'd like to explore?
Sure, we have a lot of stuff coming to the Beat Saber, and we don't want to spoil it. We have that strategy to not announce anything which is almost not done yet,
Sure.
because we don't want to crunch at all.
Yeah.
Because in the beginning it was we told people we will have this and it will be out next week or month or something.
very dangerous, very
Where
dangerous.
and then we spent nights.
Sleepless nights.
Sleepless. I remember that Vladimir was releasing one version at 5 a.m.
Yeah.
after the sleepless night in our office where there was no heating. So he was really like frozen there, releasing the new version, which was really hard. So we are trying to avoid all of that now. So we are not announcing anything which is not done. But I can tell we are working on completely new level editor. That's a new thing, because we hired a new guy for that. He is working just on that. So it will be done, hopefully. There's no release date yet.
Yeah. And speaking of growth, I know you guys, you all started with you two, and then Yaroslav joined. What does the team look like today?
Yeah, so then we hired Misha, or she hired herself. she just wrote us on Twitter like, I can help you with marketing, I will work for free. so she joined us, then we
She's
hired.
very passionate about
Yeah, she's
about
very
Beat
passionate
Saber.
about the Beat Saber. And then we had few guys from community
who are helping us creating the levels, because we understand that our capabilities are very limited, and the process of creating levels are so time consuming, because you see one song, you would say just big notes here and there, but it's like 5 difficulties, for example, and then you count another mode. There is like one saber mode, there is no arrows mode, and if everything is like handcrafted, it
takes a lot of time.
A lot of time.
Yeah, and usually Josh is the guy in Australia, and we have, I know his nickname, I don't know his name, I always forget.
another guy.
Great Yazer.
In the States probably, and now
Yeah.
we try to enlarge that part, because we feel there is a bottleneck.
Yeah, because they made the levels, and usually I check them That's
Yes.
because I still want to have my own vision, which
Yes.
is very subjective, right?
Yes.
They made really nice levels, but I want to check them. So I usually make a few changes before it's out, and it's time consuming a lot because I want to make a game, and still I have to go through each level and check it out.
So if we're looking at a 10-song pack, that's like
The
40 to
10-song
50
punk-
maps
Yeah.
that you
Yeah.
look at
Yeah.
across all the difficulties.
I
I would
remember-
rather do the less song packs from now.
Yeah, but I remember that in the beginning when the guys from Australia, he just started, so he didn't know my vision. So he made all the levels, and I opened it,
Sure.
and we had a release day on Friday, and I was like, oh fuck, all these levels suck. They are really bad. So
Yes.
so I spent the whole week just playing and tweaking the levels, which it's work, but on the other hand, it's a lot of workout, and I'm not used to that.
Sure.
So I was really physically exhausted by the end of the week.
But you had the community in mind and making
Yeah,
sure
sure,
that
sure.
they had a wonderful time
Yeah.
at each of the different levels that they were
Yeah,
going.
but now it's perfect. Like when Josh makes something, all those B maps are really good.
So do you feel like it's been a big change for you to go from kind of a power duo, really like building these games together, and now growing a team? Has that been an interesting experience?
It's definitely.
We learned a lot. Like last year is one big black blob to me. I don't know. I think it's like 10 years since the release, but we really learned a lot from the project management thing, from things like dealing with people, dealing with the community, dealing with our partners, and bringing the game to different platforms. So we really learned a lot, and I think it's not the end. We are continuing.
Yeah, we have a lot of plans. Yeah.
And today we've had the opportunity to touch a little bit about kind of origins and getting started and where you come from and how that all factored into your title and what you decided to make, and how you see it as a work in progress that's always evolving over time and you continue to iterate on. And we started today thinking a little bit about takeaways and quests. Are there any thoughts or any things you'd like to share with the audience, with developers here today, as they think about what to build for when it comes to VR?
Maybe you should also tell them something.
Yes, I should.
And
Okay,
Trevor
I'll
as
start.
well,
I'll
and
start.
Trevor as
I'll
well.
start. I mean, when it comes to Beat Saber, I think the fact that it's intuitive and easy to get into, and the fact that you can be casual in it, but you can also be hardcore. So you can spend a little time in it and have a short session or a long session. And I think that speaks to being able to tackle like breadth and depth, which I feel is important today in content. It's important that you think about what it is that you know and then hone that idea like you did, Jan, when it came to music, and then kind of build on that. So building with what you know and not being afraid to try new things.
Great.
That's my takeaway.
For me, I think when I think about Beat Saber, the vision you guys had, I think that's kind of a part of the key part of your success. So anybody who's looking to develop a VR game, especially on Quest, having a vision and then being able to focus in and figure out like what's important to reach that vision, what you can leave behind, what you can compromise on. I think that's super crucial, especially when targeting, a platform like Quest, where it is, tile-based GPU, and you have to make the right trade-offs to get the most performance out of the device. And I think what you guys have done is really impressive in that regard.
Okay, yeah. I think that for me, the very important thing is to be really honest to yourself when you are creating anything. I play the game a lot, like trying it on Quest, and if something is not right, I change it, and I spend a lot of time doing that. And I think that's if you are not happy about the result, change it all the time, because there are so many small details that really matters when there's a final product. The idea is cool, but you need to have everything else right to make it perfect, right? So last week I figured out there's one line of pixels on the menu. It drove me crazy. I know it's in the final build, it's everywhere, and I have it, I updated already, but we can't we can't push it through because it's on master, so we will break a lot of stuff. But yeah.
You know the fix is coming.
Yeah, the fix is coming.
So not settling, really making sure to like not be afraid to iterate on something, and as you mentioned earlier, not being afraid to take something out if it doesn't feel right.
Yeah, I think sometimes it might be against the economic side of the thing, like you are spending too much time on the stuff which won't matter probably on the revenue, but you will feel better, which is more important than the revenue at the end.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you.
So it was great, great thoughts. I try to think what else should I add.
Yeah, I think you
Maybe-
mentioned the other day, you talked about balance a little bit.
Yeah, so we get here a lot of feedback from the early stage of the development, where it's showcased in like very in several events, Gamescom, like GDS, and now when you have a game out with million players playing the game and everybody wants something in the game. I want this and I want that. This is good. This is bad, and we tend to listen to like every single feedback if there is a time. But I think we need to keep a balance of what we should like adapt into the game, because when we started with development, we had this vision, we had this image of the game, how it should look, how you should look, what you should do and what you shouldn't do. And sometimes you just need to say, thank you for the feedback, but we had this idea which was little bit different. So you need to balance what you accept and what you just don't accept, and be honest to your original idea, I mean.
Yeah, so not keeping balance by listening to the community, at the same time not doing something that just feels inherently on the other direction of where it is that you'd like to go.
Yeah, this nice example for this is Vladimir wanted to have custom colors since the beginning. But I was like, no. I want the red and blue forever. But then I changed my mind. Yeah, because they had it in mods anyway. So
the community definitely has enjoyed the colors and the color options in the recent, update.
There are some.
yeah.
And you
Also
see
being able to choose your own environment as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What
So-
colors do you play with? Red and blue?
No. Now I'm more into the color scheme is called Origins, and it's yellow, pink, and
Yellow and
blue
pink.
lights. It's based on my previous game, Chameleon Run. So
Yeah.
that's,
Well, today we've touched on a lot of really great points. There were many that for me, when we first talked about this, were surprises around the wall and just making decisions that as a player are not as obvious to us, but that make all the difference in the final product. And we started today talking a little bit about what it's like to design with VR in mind and bringing elements that are unique to it. We talked about kind of the magic of being able to cut and how satisfying it feels. When I describe Beat Saber to someone who doesn't know VR, I say, well, you cut cubes to the rhythm, and they don't get it right away. So it's great now that I have Quest and I can just have them try and experience it for themselves. And when it comes to Quest, being open to making changes and keeping optimization in mind, it wasn't an obvious path. You knew the path and worked on it really hard and got Beat Saber on Quest to a state where it feels and it runs really great. And that was a result of your efforts. And then also over time being able to keep the community in mind as you iterate and kind of see Beat Saber as a living thing that continues to change. And we all look forward to seeing what you ship next. I'm excited about 360 coming in December. We have a date.
Yay!
Super excited.
yeah, we
There's
have
also a demo
date.
here at the show if you'd like to try it, a new demo. So I want to thank you, each of you, for your time today. It was fantastic.
Thank you.
It was a learning experience for me to learn a little bit more, even after we've been chatting together for a long time. So thank you all, and we will actually be over at the speaker pavilion right after this. So if you'd like to come and say hello and maybe ask a few questions, that should be outside to the left, all the way at the very end outside. Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you all.